Rosie, I know I gave this a French name, this Pommes Boulangere, but I'm going to change it to Richo's Mum's Potatoes because people will come from far and wide to eat them. And it's a really simple dish to put together.
That's lovely.
It is, isn't it? You know, my mum's going to be watching, so hi, Mum. We'll have to...
Very sweet inside there, really.
Just deep down. You have to dig pretty deep.
Really deep.
Now, this is an easy dish, and it starts with 2 brown onions that I've taken the skin off. Now, while I'm cutting the onions, Rosie, I've got some time there. Pick the time and give it a little bit of a rough chop. And the vegeta, I want you to put 4 tablespoons in that 1.5 litres of water, and that'll give it flavour.
But we got the chicken flavour?
The chicken flavour, which is the way it's got to be. Now, I just take the core out of the onions and slice them reasonably thin, and I sort of go all the way around the onion, and I want it to fall apart. You can slice the onions any way you want because they're going to be cooked in the oven for quite some time, so they will fall apart. But when you slice them nice and thin like this, they come up beautifully. That thyme's got a lovely flavour, hasn't it?
Oh, that is lovely. And all we have is time. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm glad we spend it together.
Exactly. Now, I'll just slice that last little bit like that. And these onions I'll pick up and put into my baking dish like this. And I'll show you a little trick or a little hack that my mother would do. She would get the onions like this, and she would get some vegeta and put about 1.5 tablespoons, maybe a little bit more, but it's just adding flavour, and mix it around with the onions. It's almost like seasoning it from the bottom up.
Oh, I love it.
Now, it has to be a bacon dish if it's a Richo dish, and it has got my name in it, so that's where the bacon comes from. This is some beautiful bacon, and I'll just slice it all the way through. We're going to dice it up so it goes all the way through from the bottom.
You've done this on purpose, haven't you? You've put the onions in front of me, just...
I move them
You've
quickly.
become immune after all these years, haven't you?
After all these years, they sometimes still get you, though, but the trick is to move them away, or another trick is to get someone else to cut the onions for you.
Yeah.
Now, the bacon, I've got probably about 300 grams of bacon, maybe more, maybe less. I'll pop that onto the onions and save some of the bacon for on top. It's time to cut up the potatoes. And with the potatoes, I just slice the end of it off like that, and I'm going to cut it about 1 centimetre thick. And you can see I'm using washed potatoes because I like to keep the skin on. It sort of holds it all together. But if you don't have washed potatoes, make sure you wash them really, really well. Just slice it, get into it. The more people that do this, the quicker it gets done. So I slice it all the way through. Now, with the potatoes, I just lay them like that, just down on their side across the dish here. And any leftover bits, like the end bits, we just tuck down the end here. We don't want to waste anything. They're also good to nibble on as the potatoes are cooking. I'll slice this one up here. How's it going so far, Rosie?
Oh, it's lovely. I did want to know, what was the name of this dish again in the French name?
Pommes Boulangere, which is baker's potatoes. So the bakers who bake the bread, they would bake bread all night, and then in the morning they would put this into the oven and bake some potatoes. I suppose that after all those hours of baking bread, they're pretty sick of having a sandwich, wouldn't they? So you put some potatoes in there, use the warmth or the heat from the oven to bake these potatoes the rest of the way. There we go, 2 more potatoes, and I reckon that'll be it. Take the top off it. Look at that. They cut up beautifully, nice and easily.
So satisfying.
Slide that one in there like that, and then make sure it's all tucked in beautifully. I'm going to bring this over here. Rosie, I want you to grab that vegeta and put about 4 tablespoons into the water. About 1.5 litres of water to 4 tablespoons. That'll give it lots of flavour. The bacon I'll sprinkle over the top here, and I'm just doing this while you're looking over there. Look at that. Plenty of bacon on there, and a little bit of salt goes on here as well to make it even more tastier, and a few blocks of butter. I like the butter because they float on top of the liquid and makes it fry a little bit with the bacon flavour that goes nice and crispy. It's a lovely little dish, isn't it?
It really is.
Put those big lobs on there. And my mum would always use vegeta. She loved it, and it sort of reminds me of her cooking. Now, I'll just pour the liquid in nice and slowly till it comes up to about the bottom third of the potatoes. You can see that's the right amount there. Push it down a little bit, and as the liquid starts to boil, it'll cook the potatoes. They'll go nice and crispy on top. Into the oven we go. About 200 degrees Celsius, about 40 to 50 minutes. Can't wait for this. There we go, some chopped parsley, Rosie. Looks good, doesn't it?
Looks amazing. Looks so good.
I tell you what, this reminds me of Mum when I serve this up. Just, you know, as a little boy, just looking over the counter there, and there would be my mum serving it up to me. Plenty of liquid in there, and it's great tasting liquid. A little bit of parsley on top like that. and I'm just going to pick this up and have a little taste of that. Potatoes are cooked all the way through, nice and soft and crunchy on the outside, crispy bacon through.
So you've got everything, haven't you? You've got the softness, you've got the crunch. It smells like a roast dinner. It smells like a whole roast dinner.
It is a dinner. You don't need anything else. It tastes fantastic. I reckon it's almost better than my mum's. Not that I would ever say that at all. It is fantastic, and it almost brings a tear to my eye, Rosie.
I'm going to call you mum now.